today's video. This is such a huge passion that my husband and I have, and that is hosting and opening up our home. Generously hosting is one of the biggest element, I'd say, of our family mission statement. And so this is something that really excites us. Both my husband and I share this gift of hosting. And I think it is one of the most untalked about elements of being a Christian. Just like Christians are called to evangelize, not all of us have the gift of evangelizing, but we all are called to evangelize. And I believe hospitality and opening up our homes is one of the same things where not all of us have the gift of hosting, but all of us are called and should open up our homes and be hospitable to other people. And so I wanted to start off today's video, and this entire video will really be the practical side of how to host, how to prepare your home, prepare your heart, and get ready in the most practical senses. And we've been doing this for several years, and we've always opened up our home. And throughout the years, as we added more children to our family and our family changes have come and gone, and we've been in smaller homes and then larger homes, we have changed the way that we do this. And so I feel like I've walked through a lot of different seasons of hosting, and I feel like I've a lot of value and a lot of insight to add in this area. And so I think it is such a blessing for us to acknowledge what the gift the Lord has given us and how we can best steward it. I know a lot of us sometimes think like, well, once my house is a little bit bigger, once it's a little bit nicer, once I have this, once I have that, then I'll host, then I'll do this. And I really want to encourage you and press you into having and acknowledging what you have and stewarding it now, because it's so easy to get caught up in the laters and what ifs, and if I just had this and if I had just had that. And I feel like that's one of the tactics that the enemy has done really good at, especially in the hosting category, is just to get us feeling discouraged and all of these things. So I really want to encourage you to steward what you currently have, steward the space you have, steward the things that you have, and not constantly feel like you need to long and desire for more. Before we had a large dining table and room, we had only a table that fit 6 people, and our previous home was a lot smaller in our kitchen space. We didn't have a dining room, and so it was in our kitchen, and we would get folding chairs and folding tables and do all the things and make it work. And we were able to fit 20 people in our previous home. And if you would have gone inside that home, you would have thought, wow, how did you do this? And so I just really want to encourage you to, where you are at, steward it well. And so let's just jump into the practical things. Now, because my kids are at home, I homeschool them, I work from home, my husband works, we have lots of little things going on that realistically, for us to be able to host at the scale that we were this weekend, I had to break things up. I had to do things a little bit here, a little bit there, and start really early on in the week. Now, just to kind of paint the picture of what our weekend was going to look like, Friday we were hosting Shabbat. The Friday that we were doing it was actually the Feast of Esther, and so that was a more significant Shabbat than usual. And so we had 28 people coming, and then that night as well, we were having 2 couples stay with us, and they were staying with us Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then on Sunday, we were also going to be hosting 70 family and friends for a gathering at our home. And so we had a very busy weekend with lots of souls coming in and out of our home, lots of souls to feed, lots of souls to tend to and care for. And so a lot of my preparation in the beginning of the week, and this is what my first tip is going to be for you, is to prepare your home before you prepare for your guest. And so for me, practically speaking, it meant getting all of my house chores done ahead of time, earlier in the week, because a lot of the things that I do that are more house heavy, I tend to do more towards before the weekend, so I can relax over the weekend. But because this weekend was going to be different, I was stripping the sheets, cleaning our bedding, getting the guest room ready, all of those things way ahead of time. I was getting all the kids' laundry done ahead of time. I was homeschooling the kids double time, and so I was getting 2 lessons done a day, and just doing, like, that's the flexibility of homeschool. Like, if we know we're going to have a busier week later on into the weekend, I just doubled up, and so it just worked out really well. So prepare your home. Now, as you go to prepare for your guest, this is really crucial. You need to ask yourself multiple questions. Who's coming? because you need to know how many people you're having. So my husband, he is notorious for doing this, but he had told me we were having 20 people. And so my sister and I had set up for 20. And then he goes, oh wait, sorry babe, I added another 8 people. So we're gonna have 28. So then my sister and I had to readjust a couple of things, which was totally fine. But like my husband always keeps me on my toes. And so who's coming? And then when you're answering the question of who's coming, is it children? Is it toddlers? Is it like who, what are their ages? What do they like? What don't they like? Ask people what they're allergic to, what foods they absolutely detest. Because it's important to know, like, it would suck if you just spent hours cooking a pasta casserole with shrimp and this person is allergic to shrimp, or this person can't have cheese. Like, we really need to make sure we're asking these questions ahead of time so we're preparing our meals properly. The next thing is prepare all of your meals ahead of time. Sit down and write down every single meal that you plan on making. So because we were hosting people over the weekend, I was thinking about breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I had written out every single thing that I was going to be making for that. So our Shabbat dinner, we were going to be having pearl couscous with cucumbers and tomatoes and olives and red onion. And it's like a cold salad. So this was something that I could make ahead of time. And then we were having this arugula salad that Jordan makes all the time that is so delicious. It has like goat cheese on it and pecans and dried cranberries. And the dressing is like this homemade dressing that I make. It's delicious. And then we were having chicken. So I knew the menu. And we also had challah, and then we had a pazuki and Haman's ears, which is like a dessert. And so these are all things that I knew I was going to need. So plan out like the entire thing so you know what you need to get, and you can start brainstorming meals ahead of time. So like as I was cleaning out the sheets earlier in the week, I was already thinking about the meals I wanted to make, and I'm writing them all down. I'm not ordering anything yet. I'm not going to the store yet. I'm just writing it all down. Next thing is I will sit down with my husband and we will discuss what needs to be done like as a whole around the entire house. So one main thing, this is not urgent or necessary, but one thing that we really wanted to do before our guests came over is we wanted to take our fall decor out of our front porch because our fall decor was still out, and I wanted to change it to spring decor, or just like change it to stuff for the season, because I had totally forgot. Like my child literally brought a pumpkin in the other day, and I was like, where did you get that pumpkin? And they're like, oh, it's in the front porch. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's literally March, and I did not have a chance to do that yet. So that was like one thing we wanted to do. We had some outdoor stuff that we wanted to do that we also hired our kids to do, and we really involved the entire family. Like, it is our family mission and our family statement to be generous with hosting. And so that includes all the littles, all of our kids participate and play a part of this. Now, a lot of the video that you will see today, I intentionally don't have them shown because you guys know it's annoying for me to edit. I don't like showing them, yada, yada, yada. But they are behind the scenes helping, doing everything. Now, usually every Friday, my kids set up the table for Shabbat, but because we were having a lot more people, this is something that I did on Thursday. So ask yourself the question, what can I do ahead of time to prepare myself? What can I do that is going to make it easier as my guests arrive? Because it can be so overwhelming and you can feel like you have so many things to do. So just write down all of the things, and then, like I was saying, my husband and I divvied up the work. So pretty much anything that needed to be done outside, my husband was doing. Anything that was like inside, I was doing. And then my husband and I split up the cooking portion. And we did it when we could, because sometimes when you are making so much food, it is more time consuming than not. And so we had intended to make the pasta late at night after our kids went to bed. But instead, we actually ended up getting the bedding ready for the guests that were coming. And so just kind of be okay with your nights and early mornings being something catered to the guests that were coming. I always do a Trader Joe's haul before people come over, mainly to get flowers because they have really beautiful flowers for a really great price. I also go and get their sparkling lemonade. It is one of my favorite lemonades and guests always really enjoy that. And then I also get their soaps. They have this goat soap that I really love that I like to leave out for my guest. And then I always like to get their quiche and their croissants. And these are like my go-tos for breakfast when we have people sleeping over because they're really easy to make, and I just pop them in the oven and then I make a couple of different things to go on the side. And I prepare the rooms 2 nights before people come. So I get all the towels that they'll need, I fold them up really nice, and then my husband does this thing that I think is so sweet. It's like one of his favorite things to do with our guest, and that is make a little goodie basket with like minis of anything that someone might need. So toothbrush, toothpaste, mouthwash, body lotion, chapstick, any like little things that someone might forget on accident that it would be nice for them to have while being at your home. And so I prepare everything. Like I get the entire room ready. And so we were having a couple who had a toddler and a baby. So I got the pack and play ready. I got the crib ready. I got their towels ready. Everything in their room is set and ready to go. And then I close the doors off. Now, there have been seasons when we did not have a guest room, and so what we would do is either Jordan and I would pile up into our kids' rooms and we would give our master bedroom to the guest, or vice versa. We pile all the kids into our bedroom and we have mattresses in the other ones for people. Like, you can have so much fun with this and you can get so creative. So last thing that we did too was my napkins, and set up the napkins for the dining room. Because we have ducks and chickens now, I wanted to make sure that all the duck stuff and chicken stuff was clean and ready to go because they are still so young and they make such big messes all the time. And so I was trying to figure out a way to care for them and tend for them more than I needed to, so that when my guest arrived, I didn't have to worry about them as much. Now, because we were having people stay with us and they had kids, one of my favorite things to do before having kids stay with us is pre-cut all the fruit and veggies and snacks and get all the things ready. Now, my kids love when kids come over the weekend and have sleepovers because it means snacks. I usually don't buy like prepackaged snacks for the kids, but they got really excited because they know that when friends come, we do buy that because it's just a fun little treat. I also buy my kids cereal so we can have cereal together on Friday. As I'm getting Shabbat stuff ready, they know like, oh, this is a fun little treat. Like, I normally don't buy them cereal. But there's some really good healthy cereals now, I guess. So I've been buying those. They really like them. So just making fun little things for my kids so they can enjoy it too. So I like to have pre-cut fruit, and just anything that a mom with a toddler might need readily available. So I'll stock up on wipes and get a bunch of extra wipes so they're kind of all over the home, and extra clothes, and just like have these little things in mind of what a mother would need when she's staying at a person's home. Like, we had my friend Angela and her husband and her 6 boys come and stay with us, and having pre-cut food was such a convenience because if they were hungry, I would just open up the fridge and just lay out all the fruit and lay out all the snacks. And so I can enjoy my company without having this constant like, okay, well, hold on, let me cut up the fruit real quick. Or I try to just think of anything that I might possibly need to do while they're here and try to do it ahead of time. And I find that this really is helpful. Also, if you are having babies or little kids come, I go through and have my kids go through their playroom and ask ourselves, is this too small? Would a baby pick this up and choke on it? Because my baby is more so past that stage, but if a baby is like 6 months old, 7 months old, like just starting to crawl, they're putting everything in their mouth. So we really try to baby proof the entire house. So when the mother comes in, she's not worried. She's not afraid that there's like a glass vase right there and she's afraid of her baby knocking it down. We really try to just make the environment very kid friendly and mom friendly, so moms can come into our home and relax and not feel like, oh no, like I don't want them to break this or I don't want them to break that. Because as a mother myself, I know how it is when I go to a home and I'm like, wow, this is not baby proof at all. And now I feel like this is gonna fall on them or that's gonna happen. So those are things that I try to just think about and do ahead of time. Now, food. So we talked about preparing your home, preparing yourself for the type and who are the guests that are coming, getting snacks ready, and now the actual food portion. I do not grocery shop for the meals that we're making for Shabbat until the day of. And I will the night before add everything to my Instacart because that's what I do. I add everything ahead of time, make sure our portions are correct, because you can scale anything. And if you are intimidated by cooking by a lot of people, I really want to suggest making meals that you've made many times before and know how to do it with your eyes closed. Because trying out a new recipe and doing something fancy and doing something that you've never done before feeding a lot of people can be really stressful. So I suggest just keeping it simple, doing a crock pot meal, something you've done before, and just be mindful of the seasons. Because it is getting a little bit warmer out now, I'm going to start doing more cold pastas and dishes that are more cool and just fresh. Whereas over this winter, I was doing lots of shepherd's pie, lots of soups and stews and those more warmy type dishes. And so I feel just knowing the season that you're in already helps you determine what kind of meal to make, and then you can scale it. So this is a meal that we make at home for ourselves all the time. We just literally times 5'd it. Now we did end up making too much food, and this sometimes is hard to do, to figure out. I have found that the Amish do a really good job of scaling food, and they have really great recipes and resources online of how many pounds of beef, how many pounds of this to make for people depending on how many you're having. And so I always like to go on, I have a Pinterest saved of it, but I always like to go on there and double check and make sure that my estimations are correct. I would rather have more food left over, especially because I was having guests stay with us. So we ended up having this food that was left over for lunch the next day and the day after that. And it didn't feel nauseating, we're eating the same thing over and over again. They really enjoyed it and they really liked it. All of our guests really enjoyed the food. And so that ended up working out really well. Nothing ended up going to waste. And now we have chickens and ducks though. So it's been really nice being oh, we'll just give it to the chickens, or oh, we'll just give it to the ducks. So my husband and I were preparing the salad or the pasta salad together. And he moved around his meetings, so he was available in the morning for an hour so we could knock stuff out. And during that time, we had our kids doing other things around the house that needed to be done. And so we really just treat it like a team thing. Okay, team, we're having people coming in so many hours and we're so excited. And how do you think we can bless them and serve them? Do you think we could open up the windows of the home so the house gets some fresh air? And then I would send them out and they would go and open up the windows of the home. Or I'd ask them, okay, let's see if we can, I just make it into this really fun game. And my children love it. They love it. Every single day they ask me, is someone coming over? Is it Shabbat yet? It truly has become such a tradition in our family and a joy. And I do think the heart posture behind it really helps with this, because it's really hard to struggle with the Mary versus Martha portion. But I think because we plan everything out so ahead of time and really space ourselves out, it's not we're crunched for time and we're hurrying up and running and trying to get all this stuff done and we're frazzled and running around like chickens with our head cut off. It is a slow pace. The last thing I was doing too was bringing out any baby stuff. So we had a 2-month-old that was coming too. And so in my mind, I'm okay, when I go to someone's home, what do I wish I had at home that I could bring? And so I pulled out the baby swing. I made sure to wash it and get this all ready. I put it over by the rocking chair. I'm always thinking, okay, if there's a mother that is coming that needs to nurse, where can I send her to? I have a place that is more in the open. I also have a spot that is more private in the bedrooms that I can send her to so she can have privacy. So just these little things. And I also pull out a Snuggle Me. I wash it and put the cover on it, so she has somewhere to place her baby during dinner if she wants, or whatever. Also high chairs. Does anyone need a high chair? Usually we have a high chair out because our baby uses one. So is he going in it, or is it their toddler going in it? Do we need a kids table? Because we had 4 toddlers there, or we we had 4 kids, we did set up a kids table. And so I put my oldest kids in charge of that. And I asked them to cut the flowers. What colors do you want? Can you set the table? Can you get forks? And can you get knives? And then I also am removing anything again that I feel like a toddler could get to. So my plants are out and exposed, my seedlings. And so I'm just watering those, and then I'm putting them in a different room that's higher up, because right now I have it at like the perfect toddler level. And so I'm just planning and walking around the home and thinking like, okay, what can I do to minimize any messes? What can I do to things that might fall over or anything like that? But then also reminding my kids like, hey, if there's any toys in the playroom that you would be really upset that broke, maybe we should put that in your room for now. Because we've had some, like my daughter's tea set is porcelain, and we've had friends come and accidentally break them. And so I tried to think about these things too. It's a really good teaching moment to show them like, hey, all of these things are materialistic and they will rust, and the moss will eat them, and our treasures are not here on earth. So it's a good teaching moment, but then also, how can we be responsible and think ahead of time to possibly not allow something to break? Maybe we can just put this one thing away. And maybe what toys would you like to have played with when you go to someone's home? I think there's just so many conversations that we can have. I also put away my son's weapons and his like swords and shields and bow and arrows and things, because sometimes I'm not sure what other families are comfortable with, and I try to keep the rowdiness down. The last thing that I am doing is pulling out all of the things that I will need. Everything is set on the table ahead of time. So I have our water pitchers, which I always have water at the table, and then lemonade. Now, keep in mind, you can always scale up a dinner and you can always scale down. You can go all out and have a 5-course meal with a dessert and with an appetizer and with fancy drinks and with wine and with this and with that. Or you can scale it down and make it just as delightful and just have water. There have been many dinners we've hosted where we just have water, and then there's some where we have lemonade and more fancier drinks. But ask yourself the question of like, are we scaling down, scaling up? Where are we at with this? Because it's so easy to always want to scale up, and then that I think can be overwhelming. I think always start scaled down and slowly amp it up as your family gets acclimated to the rhythm of hosting consistently. Again, like I said, I had like the lemonades from Trader Joe's, and then I also love we buy our milk in glass containers, but I love the containers, and so I keep them. I have probably 10 of them at this point, but I love having them on hand because I disperse them among the tables, and so people can serve themselves their waters. And I didn't have to buy a bunch of pitchers, and it works really well. It's easy to fill up, but I place them on the table. I also, in our Shabbat room, we have a banquette thing. And I put all of the silverware, the like servingware, as well as the dishes and plates that my husband plan on using when we serve our guest. Now, sometimes we do it family style where we just pass around the dish. Sometimes we leave everything in the kitchen and people go and grab their plates and bring it. This dinner, we actually had the challah going around and the salad, and then my husband and I came around on opposite sides of the table, and we went around serving them their chicken and serving them their couscous salad, and that worked really well. Because of like how many people there was, I felt like it just let people have their conversations and sit at the table and enjoy the table more. And we always make sure the kids get served first, so we get littles fed, and then my children always come and ask me if they can be excused, and then they can go play with the kids. And so if you do have littles and you're like, how are we gonna have conversations? That's one way to do it. Last thing, this is kind of like what I do wrapping up. I try to have the house ready an hour before guests come, so the last hour I can get myself dressed, I can get the kids dressed, we can just kind of sit around and wait. One thing that we really love to do before our guests come over is we wait outside for them. Doesn't matter if it's snowing, doesn't matter if it's cold. I think there's nothing more pleasant than being greeted by a family at the front door. Actually outside, I think to myself, like if I were to go to someone's home and their children are all over the place, no one is greeting me at the door, nobody wants to see me, it's not the most welcoming feeling. And so we really feel like it helps our guests feel really welcome because we're excited to see them. We've been anticipating them. Like we're all here. We're so excited for us to all just be there at the door. But so this is probably, I think this was like 4:30, maybe pushing 5, and our guests were arriving at 6. I am unloading the dishwasher. I am making sure it is empty. I'm making sure any of the dishes that we were using to cook meals is cleaned and done. And the only thing we had left to make was the chicken, and we didn't make that until probably 5 to 10 minutes before people arrived because we wanted it to be hot and fresh. But everything else was like cooler. So my sister's hollow was rising and it was ready to go, but I am unloading the dishwashers so they are empty, completely empty. So cleanup is easier. I am emptying out all the trash cans and trash bins. So trash is set and ready to go. I'm running through the rooms, running through the bathrooms, make sure there's no skid marks from any of the kids and cleaning it out, making sure everything is set. Dogs are put away. The house is open, so there's fresh air coming through. Last minute things are just set and ready. Playroom is set and ready to go. There's no random little toys or anything that children can choke on, and our hearts and souls are ready to get our guests to come over.